Throughout the 2020 NBA season, one of the most debated topics has been who is the best player in the NBA. And recently, after the NBA season was postponed, a lot of people have been making lists about who's been the best player in the NBA since 2010. And I've seen a lot of these lists going around, but I haven't really seen anyone go back 30 to 40 years and try to decide who was the best player each season in the 80s or the 90s. So in this video, I'm going to show you who I think was the best player every NBA season, going all the way back to 1980. And for making this list, I do have a little bit of criteria. I do take into account regular season success, I do emphasize playoff success more, and I think for a player to be overtaken by another, I think there has to be a significant event. For example, some player would severely underperform in the playoffs, or another player, he plays out of his mind in the playoffs. That's how you could overtake someone as the best player in the league. And for me in my list, if there's not a clear number one best player, I am going to split up and have co-best players in the NBA, and the most I'm willing to divide up that title of best player in the world is between 3 players. That's as far as I'll go, and I'll only use that in very extreme cases. So starting out in 1980, I think it's pretty easy to decide who is the best player this season. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he won the MVP that year, and he also led the Lakers to an NBA Finals berth. And the Lakers, they would win the championship that year. Kareem, he was the best player of that series, despite not winning Finals MVP. And the only reason he didn't win that Finals MVP is because he was injured, and Magic Johnson had arguably the best game of his career, scoring 42 points, having 15 rebounds and 7 assists. But Kareem, he was the best player on that team, and he was the best player in the NBA that season. Now, that's a pretty easy choice right there, but for the 1981 season, it's very difficult to decide who actually was the best player. Dr. J, he would win the MVP that season, but he would blow a 3-1 lead to Larry Bird and the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals, so I think that kind of takes Dr. J back a step. And Kareem had a very disappointing postseason as the Lakers lost in the first round, and he was severely outplayed by Moses Malone. And another player I want to give mention to is Larry Bird. And Larry Bird, it was in his second year, and he led the Celtics to an NBA championship over the Houston Rockets. And that was the same Houston Rockets team that upset the Lakers in the first round. So for this particular season, I think it's a very close call. And I'm going to have to call it a 3-way race between Moses Malone, Larry Bird, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Now, the 1982 season, it's another difficult choice because Moses Malone, he was the one to lose in the first round this year, and Dr. J, he actually led his team to the NBA championship, where they eventually lost versus the Los Angeles Lakers and Magic Johnson. And Magic Johnson, he was undoubtedly the best player on that floor, averaging 16, 11, and 8, and walking away with the Finals MVP. So again, I think it's a very close call, and I still don't think it's a clear best player in the NBA, as a lot of players have really great arguments. And again, I have to give it a 3-way split between Magic, Larry Bird, and Moses Malone. And moving on to 1983, I think we finally get some clarity and some real understanding of who the best player in the NBA was, as Moses Malone, he would win the MVP that year after he was traded from the Houston Rockets to the Philadelphia 76ers. And in the playoffs, Moses Malone, he would lead the Philadelphia 76ers to an NBA championship over Kareem and Magic's Lakers. So I think he was the clear best player in the world, and I think he had the edge over players like Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And looking ahead to 1984, I think this is when Larry Bird, when he started his reign as the best player in the NBA, as he would win the MVP this year, and he would lead the Boston Celtics to an NBA championship over the Los Angeles Lakers. And in that final series, Larry Bird was definitely the best player, averaging 27, 14, and 3, beating Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in their first head-to-head matchup. And in 1985, not much would change. Larry Bird, he would win the MVP, but in the finals, the Lakers and Celtics, they would meet again, but this time it was the Lakers who came out on top, and Kareem came away with MVP. Now, Kareem, he did come away with the finals MVP, but I think Larry Bird, I think he was still the better player, and I think this is a case of a player's team just losing the finals. Even though I think Larry Bird was the best player, his team just did not come out on top of the series, and that's a trend you'll see with LeBron James later on, but I think Larry Bird, I think he was still the best player, even if he didn't win finals MVP, and even if his team didn't win the championship. Now, in 1986, that's a different story, because Larry Bird, he would once again win MVP, his third straight, the only player ever to win 3 straight MVPs. But the Celtics, they would win the NBA championship this year over the Houston Rockets, and this Rockets team knocked out Magic and Kareem's Lakers in the first round. So I think that definitely gives Larry Bird a clear, discernible edge as being the best player in the NBA. And Larry would win the Finals MVP this year, averaging 24, 9, and 10. And Larry Bird's dominant 3-year stretch of being the best player in the NBA, that would come to an end in the 1987 season, as Magic Johnson, he would win the 1987 MVP. And when the Lakers and Celtics finally squared off in the finals, Magic Johnson, he was the one who had the last laugh, and he's the one who walked away with the Finals MVP. And after this dominant season by Magic, even Larry Bird himself, he was convinced.
Magic's just a great basketball player. He's the best I've ever seen, you know. Unbelievable. I don't know what to say.
And after winning the championship and the Finals MVP, I think that's when Magic finally became the best player in the NBA. And I think from 1988 to 1990, I think it was Magic and Michael Jordan. Both those players finished top 3 in MVP all 3 of those years. And I think Magic, I think he was having more team success, but I think you could argue Michael Jordan, he was the better individual player. And I think it really depends on what you value. So for those particular years, I would split it Magic and Jordan. But in 1991, when those two finally met in the finals, Michael Jordan thoroughly outplayed Magic Johnson, and he beat the Los Angeles Lakers in only 5 games. So I think 1991, that's when Michael Jordan, when he finally took the crown as being the clear best player in the world, because before that, it was a huge debate, him or Magic, who was the best player, and you couldn't really find a discernible edge. But 1991, when they finally met head-to-head, Michael Jordan, he ended all the debates, and Michael Jordan, he showed he was the clear best player in the world. Now, for anyone who knows NBA history, I think the 90s are pretty straightforward. Anyone who's playing an era with a prime Michael Jordan, they are most likely not going to be the best player in the world, especially in those 92 and 93 seasons. That's arguably the peak of Michael Jordan, and no player in the NBA was coming close to touching him or the Chicago Bulls, as the Bulls would three-peat in the early 90s, and Michael Jordan, he was the clear best player in the world. But when Jordan retired in the offseason in 1993, that opened up a huge opportunity for not only teams to win championships, but also for a player to take the crown as being the best player in the world. And Hakeem Olajuwon, he absolutely stepped up and took the crown as best player in the world, winning back-to-back championships, winning the MVP and the Defensive Player of the Year in 1994, and leading a Rockets team with 0 All-Stars to an NBA championship. But once MJ came back in 1996, I think it was pretty hard for Hakeem to keep that title, especially considering Jordan the 96 season. He led the Bulls to 72 wins. He also won the MVP, the scoring title, the All-Star Game MVP, Finals MVP, and the championship. So Jordan 96, he definitely took back the crown as best player in the world, and he carried that on until he retired in 1998. So again, Jordan, he was the clear best player for another 3-year stretch in 96, 97, and 98. And similar to his retirement in 1993, when Jordan retired in 98, it created a huge level of opportunity for a player to seize the title as being the best player in the world, as well as for a team to win a championship. And the player who most stepped up was Tim Duncan. He would lead the Spurs to an NBA championship. Now, Tim Duncan was absolutely great, and he did beat Shaq in a head-to-head matchup, but I still think Shaq was super dominant, so I can't give Tim Duncan the clear outright edge as being the best player in the world. And I think the very next season in 2000, I think Shaq clearly took the title as being the best player in the world. And I think a prime Shaq, similar to a prime MJ, no one's going to be the best player in the world when you have a prime Shaq. From 2000 to 2002, I think Shaq, he was the clear best player in the world, with no one else even being remotely close. We've never seen a player dominate quite like that in the fashion of how Shaq did. He was a physical, imposing force who absolutely no one could stop. And moving ahead to the 2003 season, I think Tim Duncan once again emerged as being a strong candidate for the best player in the world. As in this 03 season, Tim Duncan, he would win MVP, and he would also beat the Lakers in the playoffs. And in the finals, Tim Duncan was absolutely spectacular. In this 03 season, I think this is the only season Tim Duncan can say that he was clearly the best player in the world. As in the very next season, 2004, Kobe Bryant, he would emerge as the best player in the Lakers. That's when Kobe finally showed he was ready to be the man, and he was ready to be the #1 option on a championship team. Now, I do know Kobe performed awful in the finals, but I don't think there's another player who was better than Kobe and Tim Duncan in that 04 season. So for the 04 season, I give the title of best player in the world. I split it between Duncan and Kobe, and in my opinion, I think Kobe and Duncan, they would split the title of best player in the world in the 05 season, the 06 season, and the 07 season. But I think in 08, when Kobe finally won MVP, and when he finally took the Lakers to the finals without Shaq, I think that's when Kobe finally became the best player in the world, because not only did he have great stats, he also had great team success, and that was the only thing holding him back, in my opinion, from being the clear-cut best player in the world. In 2009, I think Kobe would carry that title again, as he would lead the Lakers to an NBA championship over Dwight Howard and the Orlando Magic. And I don't think that would change in the 2010 season, as Kobe did the exact same thing, leading the Lakers to a championship over the Boston Celtics. And some people would argue LeBron James, he was the best player during this period. But to be honest, I can't give that title to LeBron James because he lost to the exact same teams that Kobe beat. I know LeBron didn't have the greatest supporting cast, but I think to be the best player in the world, you have to have some semblance of team success. So in my opinion, I think Kobe, I think he was the clear-cut best player from 08 to 2010. And if you disagree with me, here's LeBron James saying who he thinks was the best player in the world during this time period.
Who's the best player in the NBA?
Kobe Bryant.
Better than you?
I would have to say right now. He's a really, really good player. Individually, he has some of the best skills that the NBA has ever seen in history. And he's shown year after year after year why he continues to be one of the best players in our league.
And if you wanted to argue LeBron, he was the second best player in the world, I would agree with that. I don't think it's a 1A, 1B situation. I think Kobe, he had the clear edge over LeBron for those 3 seasons. Now, when talking about the 2011 season, I don't think there's a clear-cut best player in the world. Now, if you remember, this is the first year LeBron James, he went down to South Beach and joined Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. In the Miami Heat, they would make the NBA Finals, but LeBron, he would be absolutely horrific in that finals series, getting severely outplayed by Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade, even Jason Terry and Dirk Nowitzki. So I can't give LeBron the clear-cut best player in the world title. And the same thing goes for Kobe. I can't give Kobe the clear-cut best player in the world title this year because Kobe's Lakers, they were absolutely embarrassed by Dirk's Mavs. Kobe wasn't nearly as bad as LeBron versus the Mavs, but Kobe, he definitely didn't play up to his MVP level standards. And Dirk, he was all-time great this postseason, overshadowing both those players and eventually winning the championship with that Mavericks team. So for the 2011 season, I think it's a very interesting debate. I was leaning towards giving Dirk the outright title, but after further review, I think I have to make it a 3-way split between Dirk, Kobe, and LeBron. And some of you guys might not agree with that, but I think it's too close to call. And I'm going to have to call it a 3-way race between Dirk, Kobe, and LeBron. Now, after the 2011 season, I think we get into the real LeBron James era from 2012-2015, where he was the clear-cut best player in the world, and there was no one who was nearly as dominant as he was. LeBron, during this stretch, he would win 2 MVPs, 2 NBA championships, and 2 Finals MVPs. I think he was clearly the best player in the world, despite him losing 2 NBA Finals to the San Antonio Spurs and the Golden State Warriors. I think for that 2014 Finals, I think LeBron was still the best player on the floor, even though his team did lose. And in 2015 Finals, LeBron's teams are facing devastating injuries that I wouldn't expect any all-time great player to overcome. And LeBron, he did his best that series. He averaged around 35 points per game, but the Cavaliers would fall in 6 games. But I don't think Steph Curry took the title as being the best player in the world. So from 2012 to 2015, I think LeBron James, was the clear-cut best player in the world. Now, when talking about 2016, I don't give LeBron James the title as being the clear best player in the world. That's only because Steph Curry, he was the unanimous MVP, and the argument can be made that 2016 Curry, that is a top 5 player of all time, talking about their peak and their ultimate height. Now, the reason I can't give Steph the outright edge, because in the NBA Finals, LeBron, he did kind of sun Steph Curry. Now, I don't think it takes away from Steph Curry being dominant in the regular season, but I think the finals, I think the playoffs, I think that means more than the regular season. So for the 2016 season, I say it's LeBron James 1A, Steph Curry 1B, and after the 2016 season, we all know Kevin Durant, he did join his Golden State Warriors, for better or for worse, but KD, he did join that Warriors team, and I think he was the best player on that Golden State team, and when they met LeBron James in the finals, the Golden State Warriors would absolutely destroy the Cavaliers, and Kevin Durant went toe-to-toe with LeBron James. So for those 2 years, 2017 and 2018, I had to split up between LeBron James and Kevin Durant. Now, after that 2018 season, LeBron James, he would head west to LA. And that 2019 season for LeBron, that was arguably the worst season he's ever had in his career, as the Lakers didn't make the playoffs, and they were super disappointing. And when LeBron declared he was activating playoff mode, absolutely nothing happened. So for that one season, LeBron James, he was not in contention for the best player in the world. I would give the title of best player in the world to Kawhi Leonard, as Kawhi, he had an absolutely historic postseason run, having huge all-time clutch moments, and putting up absolutely ridiculous numbers en route to the Raptors winning their first championship in NBA history. And last but not least, we have the 2020 NBA season, and I'm hesitant to choose a player being the best player in the world for this season, because obviously this season's not over yet, and the NBA has been postponed. And I think if we do have a playoffs, I think it'll be more clear of who actually is the best player in the world. And since we don't have the playoffs yet, I'm just going to base this off who was the best in the regular season, and that would have to be Giannis Antetokounmpo being 1A, to LeBron James 2A, and even Kawhi Leonard's 3C. Now, I do throw Kawhi Leonard in there because he's the reigning Finals MVP, and he always does turn it on come playoff time. So I think those 3 guys, those are the 3 guys who are in contention for being the best player in the world for 2020. I don't think we have a clear answer yet, but hopefully after the playoffs this year, we'll have a clear answer of who is actually the best player for the 2020 season. So that is the end of the video. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions about my list, or why I ranked some player over another player, or if you think I forgot to give a player an honorable mention, let me know in the comments. I hope you guys like this video, and I'll see you guys next time.